Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Franchise Spotlight. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about 2012's Skyfall. Let's go ahead and get this rolling. So, 2012 rolls in, coming in strong again with the James Bond franchise. Sam Mendes is at the helm of directing, and behind the camera is none other than Roger Deakins. Without getting too much into the movie just yet, I must say this movie would not be what it is without these two guys behind the camera working. And you can really tell that they're just putting everything they have into this movie. Roger Deakins actually was nominated for an Oscar for cinematography in this movie, so that should tell you how beautifully shot this movie is. It is just absolutely breathtaking. Every shot could be a still painting just of how amazing this movie looks. Best cinematography in a James Bond movie by far, no doubt about it. Now, something I did not know is Robert Wade and Neil Purvis actually wrote this movie as well. And I know I trashed them for writing Quantum of Solace, but they also wrote Casino Royale, so you win and you lose, I guess. But I guess that really is a testament to Sam Mendes' directing and Roger Deakins' cinematography helping bring this movie really together. And then, of course, Daniel Craig's performance as James Bond. Perfect. So, I'm a firm believer in that a movie can only be as strong as its villain, and my god, Javier Bardem as Silva in this is absolutely fantastic. I'm a big believer in that sometimes the villain should win, and in this movie, the villain most definitely wins, and I absolutely love this movie for that. With all my first initial thoughts out of the way, let's go ahead and dive into this movie. This movie does have probably one of the coolest opening shots as well. James Bond comes into camera out of focus and comes up to it. Absolutely beautiful. But this movie really feels like it has stakes. And you really feel that in the opening before the title card comes up. Because James Bond is after this guy who stole a hard drive, which has a lot of English operatives undercover, have their real identities on it. And Naomi Harris, who you'll find out is Moneypenny, a very, very, very talented actress in this movie, which has me very excited. She ends up shooting James Bond on the orders of M, and this really shows you that M is really willing to risk any operative, no matter who it is, for the mission, for the greater good. And I absolutely love that they took that approach with the opening of this movie, because James Bond, if you're watching this for the first time, spoilers of course, if you're watching this for the first time, James Bond just dies in the beginning. Obviously he comes back, but in that moment you're like, holy shit, James Bond was shot off a train and fell some 100 feet into some water and disappeared. M writes his obituary, so you're just like, holy shit, James Bond is dead. Going along with this movie having stakes, obviously this was a failed mission to retrieve the hard drive, so M is now on the hot seat to be replaced by Ralph Fiennes. I believe his character's name is Mallory. And she goes to court and is being told, hey, this 00 section really isn't worth it. You know, you're really putting a lot of lives in danger, but you're really not getting the results that we should be seeing. And I absolutely love the court scene. This happens later on in the movie, but I love that scene just because M, Dame Judi Dench, is like, you don't see the world the way I see it.
Ministers, today I've repeatedly heard how irrelevant my department has become. Why do we need agents? The 00 section, isn't it all rather quaint? Well, I suppose I see a different world than you do. And the truth is that what I see frightens me. I'm frightened because our enemies are no longer known to us. They do not exist on a map. They're not nations. They're individuals. Now look around you. Who do you fear? Can you see a face, a uniform, a flag? No. Our world is not more transparent now. It's more opaque. It's in the shadows. That's where we must do battle. So before you declare us irrelevant, ask yourselves, how safe do you feel?
It's absolutely terrifying, and you can kind of look at that in today's society, which I absolutely love that James Bond always tries to stay topical with what's going on in the world. Also coming in with this movie, we see our first modern day Q with Ben Winshaw, and I think he does a good job. He's not on screen for very long, but he gets the point across. We finally have some Q gadgets, and they actually reference, I believe it's GoldenEye with the exploding pen. They reference that, and I thought that was a fun little, like, joke on the nose.
You. Not exactly Christmas, is it?
Were you expecting an exploding pen? We don't really go in for that anymore.
So with Javier Bardem being the villain, it also has one of the coolest character introductions of all time in any movie that I've seen, is whenever James Bond is bound to a chair, and in the background there's an elevator coming down, and the whole time Javier Bardem is walking up to James Bond, he's going on about this speech about how you can really change someone's nature. In this case, he was talking about rats and changing the nature of a rat, comparing both himself and Daniel Craig to these rats, and how M is changing who they are, basically going against them and betraying them. And it's a very, very interesting speech and a very interesting monologue if you just go in and watch it, and especially in the context of the movie and how much Javier Bardem's character hates M for betraying him. And that's ultimately what this movie is about, is Javier Bardem trying to kill M, and then James Bond's loyalty being tested, because he believes that M has his back no matter what, even though she was the one who told Naomi Harris to shoot James Bond. But he does know that it is for the greater good. But whenever he gets reinstated, M is like, oh, you just barely passed. But with this Javier Bardem introduction, it's actually shown that M lied to James Bond to throw him in the field because she trusted him, but he's just not clear. He's not fit for active duty. And Javier Bardem tries to use that against James Bond, saying, oh, you know, she doesn't trust you. You're a loose cannon. You're going out here to your death. And I love that he tries to use that against him. This movie also explores the backstory to James Bond. Skyfall is the orphanage in the area that he grew up in, and he absolutely hates going back there. But ultimately he does, but he does it in style. We get the original James Bond car. I, for the life of me, cannot remember the name of it, but it is the one that Sean Connery drove in Goldfinger. And oh my god, when that scene played in the movie, I knew it was coming, but I just can't help but smile. And I know that this is gonna get some sort of copyright strike, but you know what? I'm doing everything I can to cite it, but here's the clip.
Well, I'm not hiding in there, if that's your brilliant plan.
We're changing vehicles. Trouble with company cars is they have trackers.
And I suppose that's completely inconspicuous.
Get in.
It's not very comfortable, is it?
Are you going to complain the whole way?
Oh, go on then, eject me. See if I can. Where are we going?
Back in time. Somewhere we'll have the advantage.
And every time I watch that, I can't help but smile, just because it's such an awesome moment. Especially for me, I've been watching the whole franchise all the way through, and then just going back and just, here's the original car, the original James Bond car, that is just put in the movie so brilliantly and so organically. It's not that it's forcing you to be like, here's the James Bond car. It's just so, it feels so organic, and I absolutely love that it was written in this way, because it just feels right. It feels like that this is the only option that they have, and it's done so incredibly well. And he defends his home with his caretaker, Kincaid, and I absolutely love that they go back and talk about his past and how he was an orphan, and his upbringing, and how Kincaid kind of raised him and taught him how to shoot. And at the end of the movie, spoiler alert, like I said earlier, Javier Bardem's character does achieve his goal. He does kill M, but he ends up dying first, so he doesn't actually know that he accomplished his goal. And this is such a good send-off for Dame Judi Dench's character. It just feels natural. Like the way I was saying with the James Bond car, it feels organic, like it should happen. It feels like it's time, because she's been M for a long time. And then for Ralph Fiennes' Mallory M to replace her, it just flows so naturally, and I absolutely love this movie from beginning to end. And I could go on and on and on about how this movie is fantastic. Maybe I will in the future, maybe I won't. Who's to say? But ultimately it is for you guys to watch and for you guys to form your own opinion. These are just mine, but easily gonna give Skyfall 5 stars. Thank you everyone for watching, and we'll see you next time.